are so excited. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our live stream. My name's Erica and I am on Andrew Yang's campaign team. And I'm so excited about to talk to you about everything that has gone on today. So much has happened in the last 24 hours. I mean, like just so much. First of all, Andrew announced that he is running for mayor of New York City. Woo! I'm so excited. It's just amazing. So I'm just going to go through briefly everything that's been accomplished in the last 24 hours. We dropped a video, and the last I heard, there was 2.9 million views and counting on that video. We dropped a website with just the beginning of Andrew's policies. This morning, Andrew was at a press conference full of press at the Morningside Park. Thousands of people were watching that live stream. And we also were able to announce Richie Torres' endorsement. So exciting. I hope you guys caught them together on Andrew's IG. And what did he go to next? He headed over to Queens. After he was with Richie in the Bronx, he headed over to Queens and he was with Donovan Richards. And then he finished out the day there in Brooklyn with Latrice Walker. How exciting. I mean, 24 hours. That's all that we accomplished. It's amazing. I think we are going to see a phenomenal campaign that you have never seen before. I'm so excited to be here to introduce to you people that are of New York City. That we have a team here of folks in the room in the live town hall. As we do things virtually these days, just want everyone to give a little wave to the audience. All right, Yang Gang, it's a very exciting time for us. We are starting a new campaign, a new day. And if you aren't yet Yang Gang, hopefully after this live stream, you will be. It's very exciting to be starting another campaign. It's just a wonderful time to get New York back connected to something. You know, like I know we've all been struggling. It's been 2020 was a hard time. It was definitely, I know it was for me. I'm sure it was for you. But, you know, with Andrew coming out to campaign and talk about the things that he thinks will make this city revitalized, grow, bring back business, get all of Broadway back in business. I mean, these are things that are important for the economy. They're important for us. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all the 5 boroughs. If you are in New York right now, you're in one of the 5 boroughs, put it in the chat. We want to see who's here from what borough. Let us know right now. Throw it in there. Yeah, so we've got Queens. Who's anybody here from Sunset Park? Brooklyn. Who's in the house? Bronx. Woo, thank you. I love all the familiar faces. I love seeing Yang Gang again. You guys have come through, and I just want to tell you, we have a spectacular volunteer program for everyone to get involved in. And what we're doing this time, we're doing relational organizing. I'm going to talk about that at the end a little bit more, but we have a really cool program that we're going to be using. It's an app on your phone that makes each and every one of you somebody that could reach out to your neighbors, coworkers, family. Even if you're not in New York, we're going to set that up so all of you can be involved in our campaign. So I really suggest strongly that you go to our Mobilize page and sign up for the first orientation this coming Sunday. It's really important that we get that going. Yeah, we've got a lot to be excited about, but I think what's going to happen now, if I'm not mistaken, is we at the right time for it. We have a special video for you. I don't think I should even introduce it. I think it'll speak for itself. So without further ado, I think it's time. I might want to delay just a little bit more just to make sure that we give enough time for the man of the hour to show up. He's a busy guy. He's out there doing interviews all the time, talking to the press, talking to people, getting to know our communities. So I think Yeah, let's play the video. Roll the video, Mike. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, New Yorkers? Now, as you know, the past 10 months have been scary and difficult and painful for many, many, many of us. You know, many of our communities that I care about so passionately, the Latino community, the Black community, the Jewish community, the Asian community, the gay community, theater community, all of New York City is my community, and they're hurting badly right now. Even with the vaccine, it's going to take a hell of an effort to get New York City back to where we were. But I do know one guy running for mayor who's got the ideas and the enthusiasm to get us there, and that's Andrew Yang. Like a lot of my fellow parents, I got turned on to Andrew Yang during his presidential campaign from my kid, who really wants $1,000 a month. And I said, sure, son, let me get that for you. And then I started learning a lot about Andrew and what he believes in. And suddenly I was 100% Yang gang. That's right, Yang gang. Now, if anyone has the brain, the energy, and the empathy to bring New York City back, it's Andrew. He's got real plans to lift our communities out of poverty, to get people back to work, and to turn the lights back on Broadway and revive the entertainment industry, which I care deeply about. And that's why I'm so excited and proud to introduce my friend and the next mayor of the greatest city in the world, Andrew Yang. And you may be asking, why are you excited about Mayor Andrew Yang? What makes you believe in Andrew? Why is Andrew the candidate to save New York? What does New York need from its next mayor? I'll tell you, because New York means everything to me. And Andrew Yang is a New Yorker.
Let me know. Am I audible? Hello, everyone. What's up, Yang Gang? Yeah. What a day. I saw 4/5 of New York City, sort of. Not really, because New York City is vast. But I went to 4 of the 5 boroughs. I'll make it to Staten Island soon, I'm sure. So much fun. So glorious. Thank you, John Leguizamo. If you were to make a list of quintessential New Yorkers, I feel like John Leguizamo has to be very, very, very high on that list. Am I right? Like John Leguizamo defines and embodies New York in a way that very, very few others. I am so grateful to him and his family for the endorsement and support. It's immensely meaningful. And he's right. I do care deeply about the creative community and the Broadway community, in addition to the Latino community and all of the other ethnic communities around New York City. Because if you look at Broadway, yes, there are the 87,000 people that work directly for Broadway that are not working right now. And that's a lot. That's not just performers, that's ushers and parking attendants and like everything else. But there's something very, very unique about Broadway and its stature as like the temple to a particular type of performance or art. Like I remember the first time I went to a Broadway show, I was Phantom of the Opera when I was 13. Go ahead and like everyone yell out like what the heck your first Broadway show was, or type it into the box if you're here on Zoom. But mine was Phantom of the Opera.
Lion King.
Lion King, Rent. Oh, let's read some out. This will be fun. Someone saw Hamilton as their first show. That blows my mind because Hamilton was awesome. And incidentally, like Aladdin, Miss Saigon, Mamma Mia, Wicked, excellent. Do I sound like a Broadway nerd in that I've seen a lot of these shows? Like I genuinely have seen a lot of these shows though. So John's 100% right that we need to do everything we can to reopen Broadway for reasons not just economic, but human and cultural. So grateful to John. So grateful to everyone who's here watching tonight. I cannot wait for this mayoral campaign to just keep on gathering steam. Want to thank each and every one of you. I will say a couple of things just because, yeah, Phantom of the Opera, me too. I will say that in this race, so we all know that there are a lot of folks watching this from around the country, but this is a race where New Yorkers truly have magic powers. Remember the presidential, I used to talk about like the magic powers of Iowans, the magic powers of New Hampshire residents, which were real. but for this race, it's New York City residents who have incredible powers, like powers you're not even going to believe when I tell you this, that if a New York City resident donates $50 to my campaign, the city of New York will match that 8-1. If you donate $50 to this campaign, the city gives us $400. If you donated $10, they give us $80. If you donate $250, they give us $2,000. Like it's awesome. I love it. I think most people who know me know that I love public campaign financing. So what we'd love for you to do, if you're watching this from outside New York, we love you. But you probably know a New Yorker because there are a lot of us, and you probably know someone. Just haunt a New Yorker or two and just be like, yo, you remember that time I did you that thing? Can you do me a favor and just donate $20 to like the Yang mayoral campaign? And then you can tell them that it's like the city will then give him $160. So this is like the most incredible alchemy that I've ever seen in electoral politics. So thank you, City of New York, for setting up such a robust campaign finance system. And we want to take advantage of the magic powers. So that's magic power number 1, 8-1 magic campaign matching. Number 2 is that, and this is one of the things that's funny, people are knocking me for not voting in mayoral elections. The proportion of New Yorkers who don't vote in mayoral elections is something like 87% or 90%. Like you're actually very, very, no offense, but you're kind of distinct if you do vote in mayoral elections. You're literally like 10%. And that's awesome. I mean, love it. So if we activate more New Yorkers to actually vote in the mayoral election, we can actually change those numbers very, very quickly, because a lot more people voted for Joe Biden, for example. The turnout there was, I think, about 3 times higher than it was for the mayoral, maybe even higher than that, maybe 4 times higher. So if we get more people activated to vote in the mayoral, that's a huge win. It's great. The magic powers of New Yorkers on this one, just awesome. So please do get out the word to your friends in New York City. Let them know they can make magic happen like that. They owe you a favor. Maybe they they owed you $20. Just be like, don't give it to me, give it to Yang, and then the city will give them 160. So as you can all tell, I'm already in the weeds of the mechanics of the race. That is the way my brain works. And that's the way my brain's working on the problems in New York City too. Because I see a problem in New York City and I think, maybe we can do something about that. But the only way we can actually be in position to do something at the biggest level here in New York City is to do the work, compete, get the word out, and win this race. Thank you so much for being here today. I think I'm going to get some questions from the awesome Yang Gangers here in the Zoom in New York City. And I know people on YouTube and other channels, if you put in questions too, I have been told that we're going to take some of those too, because we love you just as much. Maybe not quite as much. We love these people a little bit more, but we love you too. Erica,
Yes.
you want to invite some people for some questions?
Absolutely. And thank you, yes, YouTubers and Twitterites and everyone else that's here. First question that you're going to get is from Monty. Monty, unmute yourself.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Hey, Monty,
Yeah.
How are you? So many familiar faces here. Hey, Nell. Hey, Will. Hey, Tyler. Wow. Hey, Jasmine.
So I'm from the Bronx, and I taught elementary school for 20 years. Then I co-founded a charter school and served as its principal for 14 years. And also I started the Humanity Forward K-12 Facebook group. So people inside the meritocratic bubble don't understand that we are truly in an education apocalypse in New York City. In your book and in the 2019 campaign, you raised ideas that could revolutionize New York City public schools. And I want to ask if you could promise to make K-12 education one of your top 4 pillar issues this campaign.
Monty, first, thank you for everything you've done for so many kids. Wow, like what an educator's educator. Let's give it up for Monty. How many lives has he touched? Probably more than just about any of us.
I counted 7,000.
7,000 lives. I mean, who can have that kind of impact? Not many people. Monty, of course, K through 12 is going to be one of my top priorities, if only just because I've got 2 children. I wouldn't be able to go home at night if I was doing work and then Evelyn was like, hey, how about our child's public school, should sort of be front and center. And it's the right thing to do on a human level. It's the right thing to do on a personal level. It's the right thing to do on an economic level. It's the right thing to do on an equity level. So 100%, we need to do more for folks like you, Monty, who are doing the work. And one of the things that I say to educators, like, we need to set more educators up to be able to succeed. If you talk about an educational apocalypse in New York City, like, that scares a lot of people. You know, we have to make it so that schools are actually putting kids in position to succeed, and teachers know that they're getting the support they need. Thank you for everything you've done, Monty. But yeah, it's going to be a top priority for me, for sure.
Can I follow up very quickly? Can you try to build a voting block of parents and teachers? Because people are sick and tired of the platitudes and false promises that other candidates are giving.
You know, Monty, I just ran into a supporter today on the trail who said they were part of like a Parents for Yang group. I wonder if they're here today. They might be. But they said the same thing, is like, we need to get a group of parents together to try to vote for the parents' interests. And there is like a real nagging concern that a lot of us have, that there are various institutional layers that are making decisions that affect families in different ways, and then the families are like, huh? like looking around. So I would love to have a parents group activated so that families feel like their interests are actually leading in City Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. Thank you so much. Because we are limited on time, if we could just stick to the first question.
Oh no!
Great.
Am I too long-winded, Erica?
No, you're awesome, Andrew.
I'll stay here all night.
Andrew. All right, so we have a question from someone in the chat on YouTube, Sonic Fan. Can you talk about your MTA plans? It's been downhill for decades.
Yeah, it's been rough. You know, Sonic is one of my son's favorite video game characters. He called his character Sonic the Fighter. So, you know, he picked a good screen name. The MTA has been trending in a negative direction, and it's going to be tough to arrest like the decline, honestly. But I have some ideas, and I think there are big things that we can do. I do think that we need to be able to do them. It's very, very hard to have your main arteries of transportation that people are using to get to work and school every day and then not have control over it. I think that's going to be a big problem. But I've looked at the math. It turns out that the subway fares, as they currently are charged, represent a relatively small proportion of the costs of running the subways. For example, I think the fare box, which is what it's called, is somewhere in like the 35 to 40% level. So one of the things, in my opinion, you cannot do is you cannot raise fares to success. You know what I mean? Like that to me is a great way to start a negative spiral. You're much, much better off trying to make fares lower or more equitable in different ways. There is a fair fares program that needs to be expanded because a lot of families that could qualify for it aren't using it. So that gives you a sense of what I want to do with the subways. I will say that if you want to try and make big changes that will touch people's lives with our subways and buses, you have a lot more flexibility on buses than you do subways. Because if you think about it, I mean, it's common sense too. Like, you know, you can like do things with a bus and you control the roads. So if you want to try and clear a bus lane on a road, you can do it. And the goal has to be to try and increase people's sense of the reliability of however they're getting around. So what happens is if someone has enough negative experiences and they'll be like, hang it, you know what I mean? Like, so you have to invest in like segments that are really, really reliable. So if you can imagine, for example, a bus corridor with an electric bus going back and forth and it's very, very reliable, like that actually can change people's commuting habits. And that's the kind of thing we can do that does not break the bank. That would make a big difference in people's lives. I have an idea too that I hope New Yorkers like this. I was much more with it on the subway and the lines in the map than I ever was with the buses. like the buses. Hopefully this does not, you know, like make someone out there be like, oh, you know, I mean, like love the buses, but I was just much more cognizant of the subway lines. And so one of the ideas I have is like, look, there might be certain bus lines that you make into virtual subways where you stick it on the subway map in a transportation desert. And then people start thinking of it as a subway, but it's like an above ground subway. And it's just a very, very reliable electric bus that goes back and forth. I think that actually might make it more real for a lot of New Yorkers. Pre-pandemic, about 5.5 million people rode the subway every day. Buses was like 2.2 million, something like order of magnitude. These numbers are about right. So one way to get more people on more buses is essentially to like lead them to the buses from the subway map.
Linda agrees with you. She just said in the chat, oh my gosh, why hasn't that happened yet? It makes so much sense to have a singular map. Okay, we have another question actually from Linda. If you would like to unmute.
Okay, hi Erica. Hi Andrew.
Hey Linda.
Hey Linda.
Woo, so excited. I'm so happy you're running for mayor. And I was so happy also to hear you talk about Broadway and creatives at the beginning of this Zoom, because, you know, just amongst the Yang Gang, talking amongst ourselves, we kind of notice we do fall into buckets. There are a lot of creatives among us, like just on the Zoom tonight, we've got musicians, like Broadway musicians, we've got artists, designers, actors, but we also have, you know, in our group, people like, you know, we have cabbies and baristas and people who work in hospitality. And sometimes we're all of those at the same time. And tech workers too. And we're like, well, what's the commonality?
What is the commonality? I've been waiting to hear this for months.
Here it is. We're all gig workers. We're all gig workers, and we all understand the fragility of, you know, you can have a good gig and things are great. But, you know, one thing happens and, you know, the show ends, or, you know, you lose a client, and then, you know, you got to figure it out. You might lose your insurance. So we're really vulnerable to the winds of what happens. And it's not just creatives that are gig workers. You know, there are, you know, people who work at an Amazon warehouse during holiday season. They're gig workers too. And well, and, you know, we also have a lot of young people and their students, because they're facing gig workers, being a gig worker as their future. So I guess our point is to you, our challenge to you as mayor of our city is, in addition to making New York the anti-poverty city, how can you make it the best city in the world for gig workers?
Thank you, Linda. Wow, there really was a common theme for so many different sorts of people in different industries. And to me, gig work has replaced other forms of work for millions of Americans at this point. Some numbers I saw said the vast majority of new jobs created since 2005 have been gig work. But you know what has not kept pace with that at all? Pretty much everything else. Like, our institutions essentially pretend that people still have full-time jobs, and it is breaking us that people have their benefits associated with employment during this time, where you know, like, not having healthcare if you don't have a full-time job is the worst. So New York City, actually, I'm going to say New York City is probably like a real hub for gig workers and freelancers and creatives because of our nature. And so I'm going to make us the most gig worker friendly city in the country. I'm going to bring in, and I was actually flabbergasted that I'm going to have the power to do this as mayor. It was very, very exciting. I mean, you know, I need a little bit of help, but not that much help. We're going to set up a portable benefits program so that people who work in the gig economy actually get some of the benefits that full-time workers have, and some of the protections. And what we have to do is we have to introduce like a bit of a layer of accountability and a little bit of money at the front end. And I would say that the vast majority of consumers would be perfectly happy or wouldn't even notice, but we'd actually be able to have real protections and benefits for people in the gig economy. I want to do a few other things that are a little more like immediate and corporeal, like having a freelancers hub in every borough. I think if you're a creative, especially in COVID, it's the worst. Where even if you're a creative who you're you know, working individually, you still like to be in a place with other creatives. That's just like a human impulse, you know what I mean? And so if you have a hub, it's very, very beneficial. And in my opinion, it pays for itself many times over. New York City, this question, Linda, actually goes to the heart of what makes New York City, New York City. It's like, why is it that New York City has all these people who converge in different ways. It's because if you put a group of creative people on the same floor in the same organization or whatnot, then they make each other stronger and better, and then like incredible things result. It's not just that like the individual is really strong. It's like you get a group of individuals together. I'm actually going to go on a limb and say like this describes a Broadway show. You know what I mean? Like you have like individual, very, very strong people, but you also had like an excellent composer and then excellent musicians and like excellent stage design, and like everything has to come together. That actually is the essence of New York. And so we have to try and support that in different ways. Portable benefits, freelancers hubs, and trying to protect workers. One thing, for example, and I've been a freelancer myself in the past, like decade. It's been a while. And though, who knows? Maybe I'm a freelancer now because I don't have a steady job. But if you get stiffed, it is the most infuriating thing in the world. And there are some folks that feel like they can stiff freelancers at a higher level because it's like, yeah, what are you going to do? It's like an individual. It's like, did some fee for service. They like yank your chain. Some of you might have experienced that. So we're going to do our best to try and protect you from that too, because that shit is just flat out wrong. And any freelancer that has had that happen to you, like I feel your pain. So we're going to have protections for gig workers on that level. But New York City is going to become the most gig worker friendly city in the country under my administration.
Awesome. Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. This is a good time for me to take a little breather and say, hey, time to put in a donation. If you go to yang4ny.com/donation, help us get Andrew into office so he can implement some of the plans that you are hearing right now. Someone's throwing those links into the chat.
That was me. I just typed it in. I'm very helpful.
You are helpful, Andrew.
Type.
Yes, he makes everything so easy. Okay, I'm going to ask another question from the chat on the live stream from MLE7. Would love to know what that means. They ask, how do you plan on addressing the racial inequality in New York that has heightened during the pandemic?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking how some of the inequities that were with us pre-pandemic have now exploded during the pandemic and post-pandemic. I just came from a tour of a couple of neighborhoods, and I will say, in a way, these tours were incredibly uplifting. I'll speak to one, Brownsville, Brooklyn, which has many, many issues, but also had like incredible vibrance and energy in a different way. And like both there and in the Bronx, when I was distributing food with Congressman Torres, shout out Richie Torres, he's the best. You gotta check Richie Torres out, because that guy, nothing that guy can't do. Imagine being a member of Congress at age 32. I mean, that's bananas. But there was such heart and energy and love in those communities. I was walking around with Latrice Walker, who's a state assemblywoman representing Brownsville, and she said, I don't feel safer any place than here because I know everybody. And like, everyone knows me. Like there was just such warmth to it and beauty, but the inequities were palpable. In Brownsville, there were 6 NYCHA facilities essentially forming the border of a particular set of blocks. And so it really was like something out of, and Latrice described it to me when I spoke to her before I went and visited her. But you look around and if you turn any direction, there was like a housing development that kind of comprised the border of this area. And there were some real needs and some real deprivation. So the easy answer really is get more money into the hands of the people that need it the most, which we're going to do to the tune of $1 billion a year for starters, which I really think I can get it higher using some leverage. So check this out. Let's imagine New York City is like, hey, we're going to abolish extreme poverty in the city. Would you like to help New York-based philanthropist who's already donating tens of millions of dollars to like various New York City philanthropies? Will they chip in? Would you like to help champion of universal basic income that wants to make sure that this thing is as big as it can be? Like, I think that the $1 billion that the city plans on putting in could easily become $2 billion. Like, if you leverage it right. I mean, that would be the goal. So if you can imagine $1.5 billion going into the hands of the poorest New Yorkers, who unfortunately tend to be highly disproportionately comprised of people of color, then that's really, to me, the most powerful way you can begin to address the inequities that have gotten worse. And that's actually just the beginning of it, because if you look at it, the inequities are actually much bigger than just cash relief or monies. I mean, they span generations and decades, but you have to start right now. I mean, you know, like you have to do what you can.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Oh, and Will just threw something into the text, which I appreciate so much. He said 25% of the Asian American community in NYC live under the poverty line. It's true. Asian American poverty is often overlooked in New York City, and the Asian communities get much less in the way of public resources than that number would suggest. So thank you, Will, for calling it out. But that's very real. I'm going to be registering voters in Elmhurst, Queens tomorrow. So if you'd like to come join us, please do. Daniel Day Kim, star of Lost in Hawaii 5-0 and a bunch of other things, is going to be joining us. So he's a great guy. So really excited about that. But yeah, thank you, Will, for pointing it out. You're 100% right.
So we have a question from Jasmine.
Hello, Andrew. My name is Jasmine. I'm from the Bronx, New York. I was one of your delegates from the Bronx. And I was really excited to do that for you. So thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Jasmine.
My question is, for the 300,000 NYCHA residents living in New York City, I noticed on your website that you were talking about Borough bucks. Can you please explain what that is and how will that help NYCHA residents? And is this included with the guaranteed basic income?
Thank you. What phenomenal questions. So Borough bucks is something that I think that New York City is uniquely situated to be able to make use of. If we were a country, we'd be the 11th biggest economy in the world. So I'm going to point out just a couple of examples of things that are going on that have inspired me where Borough bucks are concerned. Number one is that Ithaca, New York, which is a much smaller economy than New York City, like has this like local cash program, Ithacash, that gets used in various small businesses, and it circulates through their business community. Closer to home in New York, there are yeshiva schools. This I thought was genius as a parent, where they ask every parent in the school to buy, let's call it $1,000 worth of vouchers for local businesses. And then they have to spend it at the local businesses, and the local businesses then turn it around and give it to the yeshiva school, but they have like a 20% discount. So like every parent is essentially donating a certain amount of money to the school through spending at the small businesses. I don't know if people understood where I was going with that. So Borough bucks, the plan is to create a payment system where people can pay each other within, like, you know, borough or the boroughs, and have that money circulate through. So imagine if you were a NYCHA resident, and you're spending a certain amount of money on various things, then we give you these Borough bucks that are good at, let's call it locally owned or women owned or minority owned small businesses. Then you spend it, then that small business then can turn it around and spend it with another small business there. And we can hopefully create a whole ecosystem of value in that community that can be much, much more vast than the amount of money that we're actually laying out at any given moment in time. And so a couple of examples I'm going to use from our own experience. Let's say you have 30,000 frequent flyer miles. How much is that costing the airline? No one knows. Sort of a trick question. But the point is that you could actually put things into people's hands that they can then hold as a currency. And then you end up being able to stimulate transactions in a way that actually will be a multiple of the amount of cash you have in reserve. So for the airlines, they probably have a certain amount of value that they have in reserve for people to come redeem the frequent flyer miles at any moment in time. But it's much, much smaller than the actual miles in circulation. This must have been the most confusing explanation. I will do better next time, Jasmine. But the goal is to put money into people's hands, and I think that there are different ways that you can actually get buying power into their hands, other than just putting US dollars in their hands. Because at this point in our lives, we all have essentially 5 or 6 currencies that we're using at any moment in time. We have the cash in our wallet, then we have our credit cards, and then Apple Pay, which is linked to the credit card. And then you have maybe points like from American Express or something. Then you have like the deli punch card you're never going to use because the deli closed. Then you have some money on your Venmo. It's like you have money in like different places. And there's a real opportunity, given how big New York City is, that we can actually create ways to exchange value for people that make them functionally richer in ways that 1 + 1 = 3 or 4.
Okay. Thank you, Jasmine. Awesome.
Thank you, Jasmine. And thank you for being a delegate. That's incredible.
You're welcome.
Have we
So
met Jasmine? I feel like I've met a lot of these other characters.
I've met you at a fundraiser. I believe it was somewhere in New York. We met at a fundraiser with Shavana Newsom.
Oh, great. Well, we'll see each other again on this campaign for sure, I'm sure. Isn't it fun? Like we're all in the same place.
yeah. I've heard so many people say that. It's so true. I have another question for you, Andrew. It's from Glowing Ember. Asks, how do you plan on approaching the homelessness problem in our city?
Homelessness is a growing crisis, and I think there are things we can do to help. And one of the ways we can help is born of the fact that right now, New York City is dealing with this problem very, very expensively and inefficiently. So we have a massive shortage of affordable housing and supportive housing. And the tough reality of getting more supply has been that everyone is for affordable housing or supportive housing in the abstract, but then when you say, hey, we're going to build in your neighborhood, then they don't like it. Like that's what's been going on for a long time. So now that we're in crisis mode, to me, we have to make use of the underutilized properties in New York that are lying vacant in many cases. And a lot of those are hotels. You can imagine a lot of these hotels that, like, can you imagine these hotels right now are mostly empty. And a lot of folks right now are trying to figure out what to do with that hotel. To me, the move is to say to the hotel owner, look, we'll take it off your hands. We'll assume the liabilities, and then we can turn it into affordable housing very quickly. The thing that's happening right now is we're going to the hotel and the city is paying up to $200 a night to house someone that because we don't have a homeless shelter for that person. Like, I don't think anyone thinks that's a good idea, because if you do the math on that, like that adds up really quickly. That's like $50,000 a year, essentially, to house a homeless person. I mean, like, think about how wild that is. You could just like give the person $50,000 and then they like walk out and, I mean, a lot of them need more than just, like that place to stay. But you understand what I'm saying. It's like we're spending a lot of money. So that creates opportunities, because if you channel some of those resources towards struggling hotels, then you can actually activate beds very, very quickly. And that's forever. Like, you can actually build affordable housing that's going to be with us for years and decades. But we should be doing this right now, because a lot of these hotel owners are trying to figure it out. It's not doing anyone any good lying dormant. You have a homelessness crisis on the other side and a shortage of shelter space. The shelters are getting overrun. And so we should be doing this right now. Like, I don't understand why we're not doing this right now.
So thank you, Andrew. I'm just going to do another public announcement. Don't forget to donate. Thank you so much for all that you have given so far. It's pretty exciting how well our campaign is doing on the first day. 2 million views on our video. Pretty exciting, Andrew. I have one more question that needs to be asked of you, and I think we'll wrap it up after that. Nell, do you want to ask your question that you've been burning to ask?
Nell, how are you?
No, not no. Andrew, how you doing? Andrew, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Wow, what a background. Nell's a creative guy. You look, I mean, that looks freaking very real. It's making me pine after the Mets opening day.
Yeah, well, I have a very tough question for you, Andrew. First of all, I want to tell you how happy I am that you are a Mets fan. And but this is the really tough question. Who's your favorite New York Met?
Like, of all time or right now?
I mean, I think it's an icebreaker question. Just kind of who's your favorite New York Met of all time? Of all time is fine.
Of all time, I just have emblazoned in my mind. This is gonna date me. I'm sorry. Like, Nell might get others. But I just remember Darryl Strawberry standing there at the plate, and it just seemed like he was going to hit it out of the park every time. He was like there, he's so imposing. Like the bat, the waggle, and whatnot, the lefty swing. As a kid, I just thought he was a superhero. So Darryl Strawberry jumps out. In terms of current Mets, I have to say Jacob deGrom. I mean, that guy just like can't seem to do anything but win. So those are the folks that come to mind. But there are a lot of the Mets that are like these vintage years, and we had so many generations of good Mets. I really loved the John Olerud, Ray Ordonez, Robin Ventura era Mets. Like that was a really good, fun team.
Yeah,
You know,
awesome.
Mike Piazza, clearly. I mean,
Oh,
Mike had some great moments.
For sure. All right. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, man. You look great. You really
Thank
that's an uplifting, freaking backdrop, and
Thank you.
And cap and everything else.
He's definitely made a lot of graphics for the Yang Gang, for sure.
Oh,
I don't know
for
if you
sure.
happened to catch his Spider-Man graphic. I don't know.
I think I did. It was really well done.
Yeah. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm so glad. Andrew, do you have any last words before we close out?
First, thank you all so much. It has been a blast campaigning, even just for this brief period. And if the amount of love I got on the streets of New York is any sign, we're going to do great. Anywhere. And people are just like, Yang, Andrew Yang, where's my money? Like whatever the thing is. But it's really, really positive. There's a lot of love. I looked at my team and was like, hey, I have a feeling it might be good to have a mayoral candidate that people are really happy to see. For sure. I have a feeling that might help us. I think this race is going to be tremendous, but we need people to roll up our sleeves and do the work. So that's volunteer, it's donate. If you're not in New York, if you're in New York City, please do donate right now. Like if you're watching this in New York City, please donate any amount, $2, $5, because literally it's going to get multiplied by 8. I mean, imagine giving $5 and it's the equivalent of $45. That's like magic, I've been joking that the money multiplies like rabbits. So the first thing is, if you're a New York City resident, just donate $5 right now. And if you're a non-New York City person watching this, you can also donate $5. That'd be delightful. But if you can find someone in New York City, because I know you know them, and just be like, hey, can you do me a favor and just donate $5 to Andrew Yang's campaign? And it's like $45. That would be incredible. But we're going to have countless opportunities to get involved. You can sign up, volunteer, donate. I'm going to be in New York City running from now until really, at a minimum, like June 22nd when the primaries are. So come join us. It's like there's your chance. Like instead of hopscotching around the country, we're just going to be in New York doing our thing. Who doesn't want to visit New York City? If you have friends, you want people to visit, obviously be safe, be conscientious and everything else. But I got to say, I tooled around all around the city today and I felt perfectly safe and comfortable, just wearing a mask, socially distanced, and you're good to go. So hopefully we'll see you in New York. Let's go. Thank you, Yang Gang. Oh, this is going to be great.
Thank you.
Let's turn New York City around.
Yeah, thank you.